Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Wednesday, the 30th day of March, 2022. I hope you're safe today and healthy, and I hope that the needs of you and your family, or in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health, are being met this Wednesday. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field and those that are the first responders that are trying every day to save human lives, and those also that pick up garbage to keep streets and sidewalks and highways clean, as well as those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women trying to rescue and deliver the victims of child molestation and pedophilia, the victims of prostitution and child prostitution, the victims of pornography and child pornography, the victims of human trafficking and sex slavery, and double curses on the perverts, the perpetrators, and profiteers who traffic in human misery. Finally, blessings upon those that are homeless. Nearly 600,000 men, women, and children in the United States with no roof over their head, and millions around the world in similar and worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. There'll be a basketball game tonight. The New York Knicks are scheduled to play the Charlotte Hornets at Madison Square Garden, and that's actually a side story. That's actually a side story because the bigger story on a couple of levels is Julius Randle. As we now know, Julius Randle reportedly has decided to not be a Knick. Yesterday's video, I alluded to the fact that I wouldn't be surprised if he made that known to the management and his representative based on the totality of the season, his overall attitude, and the way finally he walked off the court Monday night after a win. You would have thought they lost the way he was acting. And before I continue, I just want to say, and I'm not joking when I say this, I'm concerned about his mental health. I really am. I'm concerned about Julius Randle's mental health. I I don't think I've ever seen a player have swings like that. A healthy player, a mentally healthy player. We've had other players with mental issues, but that have mental swings like that, going from smiling to extremely angry, and especially uh, uh, approaching a referee in a very aggressive manner, and approaching players in a very aggressive manner, even his own teammates. I don't think I've ever seen that. And we have seen players in the past wilt under the pressure of playing in New York City. We have to understand, really, a lot of people don't, especially younger people. New York is the toughest place to be a professional athlete in the world. You got to have a certain mental, what am I looking for? A mental mindset to be able to play here. The fans is huge fan base, very emotional and huge fan base. It can be unreasonable. The media is definitely anti-Nick, and so they're always looking for a story, for something to splash on the back page, based on even the minor comments. You gotta be careful how you speak. It's just a difficult environment to play in, and some of you need to understand. That's why some of you are talking about, let's go get this one and that one, and let's get him to New York. A lot of these guys don't want to come here. Okay, they just don't. And it's situations. Well, Julius is an extreme situation, but it's stuff like that that caused them to not want to come here. Now, the New York fans are very knowledgeable of the game in general, and will appreciate a person that is given 100%, even if they are not, what we expected them to be, what their contract says they should be, and faltering even. But if they're given 100% of themselves to the game, and that is shown in their hustle and their desire and their camaraderie with their teammates, we will put up with a lot from a player. Patrick Ewing was an example of that. Patrick Ewing had an attitude. He had an attitude when he came to the Knicks. But there's nobody that will ever deny Patrick Ewing on the court. Every minute was a warrior. I mean, everybody knows that. He was a warrior on the court. He never gave less than 100% every play, every night. And it showed in the stats often, and it showed in the record often. But even when it didn't, he was appreciated because he put forth 100% effort on the floor at all times. He had a prima donna attitude, though, off the floor. And he did not get along with the press. I think that was part of the reason, like, he wasn't promoted through the media as one of the new head coach of the Knicks, or being promoted as a coach, or being brought on as a coach. He just, he didn't have the greatest relationship with management and with the media, but nobody could deny that he was a true warrior on the basketball floor. But Randle is different. As we're now seeing, he's very aloof with his teammates. He's very self-centered. If it doesn't go good for him, but it goes good for the team, he's not happy. And of course, his relationship with the fans and the media is terrible. And he has these outbursts that we have seen all season. At first, it was like, oh, okay, he's angry at that play. Everybody, goes off, not everybody, but you have certain emotional plays that will go off because of a bad call or play or whatever. But this has been happening consistently the whole season. And a couple of times it actually could have cost us a game, and one time might have cost us a game. He really is irrationally angry with a referee or his own teammates or another player. Even when the player, like in Rudy Gobert's case, is expressing to him he doesn't mean any harm. It doesn't matter. I'm very concerned about his mental health. I hope he's okay. Seriously, I hope that he's okay. I would be surprised. I would be really shocked if he played tonight at Madison Square Garden. He's not on the injury report, but that doesn't matter. The boos that he heard from Madison Square Garden on Monday, they're going to be 10 times that tonight if he shows up to play. I mean, every time he touched the ball, there was a negative energy with him on the floor, and it started really affecting his play. And it's not the first time. The whole thumbs down incident, he was getting booed. I would be shocked if he played at Madison Square Garden tonight. I really would be. We talked about shutting him down for the season from last week when he, was apparently had a thigh bruise and was out 3 games. And the Knicks won those 3 games and won them pretty handily. And then, of course, we had the big win Sunday in Detroit, and then again a sweep of the back-to-back on Monday at the Garden, with the youth really coming through and playing, particularly Obi Toppin in his place. So I would be shocked if we see Julius Randle play tonight. I would be shocked. And I think he's gonna. I don't even know if he's gonna be at the Garden tonight. It's because the environment could be very hostile toward him today, being that he wants out. He's not putting forth the effort. He's being very, this is the worst way you can act in New York. It really is. And so I'd be shocked if he played today. So now that leads us to what most of us have been talking about, a trade, right? A trade this summer. Now, his contract is easy to move. It's not hard. And the reason it's easy, I told you, I looked it up on Spotrac. His base salary is $23,760,000 for 2022-23. That's his base salary. He has $2.3 million or almost $2.4 million in incentives that would bring the total base salary up, to like $27 million, look like 26 and change. Okay. That can be moved. And I mentioned the other day, how many, just at the forward spot, how many um, free agents there are, or people with expiring deals that we can get for Julius Randle. And at this point, again, I'm not looking, and I don't want the Knicks to be looking for something back that they can play. I'm looking for expiring contracts that either can be bought out or that's not going to threaten the time of the young players. And when I say threaten the time, I'm talking about Tom Thibodeau, who has a bad habit of, playing any vet over any youth, So, to help him out and to help us out with whoever we get, I don't want them here as a player. In fact, I wouldn't be, as part of the deal, talking about a buyout, unless it's a guy like that wouldn't mind coming off the bench behind Obi, okay, and Obi getting the starting minutes. That's the key here. Like a Harrison Barnes. If we could get Harrison Barnes and have him come off the bench behind Obi, I have no problem, But I don't want them threatening the minutes of any of the youth. All right. So the contract would not be difficult to move. It would not be difficult. There's extremes. We talked about a John Wall or Russell Westbrook. And then there's other deals with players, like I mentioned, the Harrison Barnes. And there's a bunch of players in that salary range with expiring deals that we could make a deal for. So, it's not going to be hard to move that contract. So anyway, we'll see how that works out going forward. But he's not going to be here next season. And so we can start talking about what the Knicks are going to be like moving forward. I think, again, they have to establish what they want to do. Okay, so now I feel like, it's just me, it may not be Leon Rose, but I feel like with this incident, with this development, it's a signal that they can go forward youth-wise. That they don't have to, like the mistake of the Kemba Walker, the mistake of the Julius contract, the mistake of the Evan Fournier, in a sense, because of the fact that you have Grimes behind him now. You can move forward now. You can move forward and you can go with youth. Julius was the big peg. I mean, even if you keep Burks and Fournier, even if you keep them, but you just remove Julius and you start Obi Toppin, you're still improving right there. You're still improving right there. So you're playing team ball right there. Okay. But I think you should really, really clean house with the vets and move forward and put Quentin Grimes as the starting two. Some of y'all was complaining. Some of y'all even getting emotional because I didn't mention Cam Reddish as the starter. Listen, if we have a wing rotation of R.J. Barrett, Quentin Grimes, and Cam Reddish, R.J.'s going to start, obviously. He's now the face of the franchise, right? And he's going to get an extension. I don't think Cam's getting an extension this summer. He's going to get his extension as he plays during the year, maybe before the end of next season, depending on how he plays. If you have a three-headed monster like that as your wings, and Cam could also play backup four, the best is going to rise to the top between Grimes and Cam. The guy that's going to help you win more games as a starter is going to rise to the top. It doesn't matter who the initial starter is. It's who is the starter at the end. See? So I would, because of Grimes being drafted by the Knicks and because of his shooting ability and his defensive acumen, he would get the nod right now to me. Now, again, I believe Cam is a number one option talent. I do. But I'm not worried about him not starting to start the season. You understand? He's going to get minutes, and he's going to get enough minutes. He's not going to be getting 8 minutes. He's going to be getting 20, 25 minutes if he's closing the game, 30 minutes. And he's going to have plenty of time to let that talent show. So I'm not worried about, don't get trippy because I said Grimes should start to start the season. I still think he should. But let's let Cam do what he do, and let's see what happens. I see some serious talent with Cam Reddish, and I I believe he will rise to the top, but let's let him, right? He might win the job outright in the summer, in the training camp. I don't know. But it's not that big a deal to be tripping about who starts between Grimes and Cam. That's high school stuff. This is NBA, y'all. I mean, the best will get paid and the best will play, especially among the kids. I'm not worried about that. But we'll have that as a trio of wings, and then you still got Emmanuel Quickly, who to me is still a two guard, and he could play point, but that's added to that, to the three guys we have. So to me, Cam is like, he could play backup 4 minutes. He could start at the 2 or the 3. He's versatile, and he's a ball player. So I'm not worried about him playing, and if he really shows out, which I believe he will, at all-star level, that number one option level talent, it'll come through. It'll come through. I'm not worried about that. Just like the Deuce and IQ situation. IQ has he's obviously could play, obviously both of them could play. But I'm not worried about the long-term outlook here because Cream rises to the top. Once they're both getting 25 minutes a game, you're going to see who should be the starter and who should be playing the most and what position they should be in over time. Okay. My thing is, some of y'all really hot and juicy for Jalen Brunson. And I understand that, but I think our problem is already solved between Quick and Deuce. Our problem's already solved. And why would you pay $80 million for Brunson, right? When you got two kids that can play the position on rookie deals. To me, that just makes no financial sense. It makes no sense going forward. But like I said, I'm not Leon Rose, and I understand it. But $80 million for Brunson, I'm just not feeling that. I'm not. And somebody like, well, let's trade, Randle and get Brunson. Well, this is the NBA 2K mentality again. I'm not wanting to give somebody $80 million when I got two guys on my team that I drafted on their rookie deals that can do the job just as well. To me, they can. Okay, so I'm not on the hype of, and some of y'all before they even, your tie people, Washington draft, we need a point guard. Y'all need to stop tripping. We got 2 point guards. We got 2. Even though I don't consider Emmanuel Quickly a point guard, he can play the position better or as well as any of those other 2 guys we're talking about. And we have Deuce McBride too. I'm not worried about them. To me, our point guard problem is solved. I'm not even looking anymore. Okay. If you wanted to get some vet, we already got that. Derrick Rose. We already got that. Okay. So I think our point guard problems are solved. We just need Tom to stop thinking Burks is the best point guard he has. When he moves when Burks is moved and you don't give him another toy, a veteran toy to put in their place, let's leave Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickly, and Deuce McBride. We got a nice trio of point guards. I'm not worried about it. Now, that doesn't mean that's how it's going to play out. The Knicks could very well go sign Jalen Brunson to the $80 million that he's looking for. It is what it is. I hope they don't. Okay. There's a difference between me saying what I think the Knicks will do and what I'd like them to do. Some of y'all get that twisted. I think the Knicks will go after Jalen Brunson, and they may well sign him to $80 million. I wouldn't do it because I like what we have. All right, but that's just me. So the trade will happen for Julius Randle. I would be shocked again if he played tonight. And if he doesn't play, the Knicks' chances of beating Charlotte are very high. They're a different team without Julius Randle. Without that energy, without the style of play that keeps the ball too long, we know the story, right? The lack of consistent effort on both sides of the basketball, the no accountability from the coach, that all goes away. Right. That all goes away. Now, we do lose about 12 rebounds a game, but I'm not worried about that either. I think Obi will make up for it. I think Obi will do whatever we need him to do. If we need him to hit the boards, he's got the talent to hit the boards. If we need him to run the floor, which we do, he'll run the floor. He's going to give you 100% effort on both sides of the basketball every minute that he's on the floor. And so, and he just brings a different energy. So I'm not worried about that. In fact, I think the Knicks are going to be very good closing this season. I think they're going to be very good closing this season. So I think the chance of them beating Charlotte is very high. Again, I'm not expecting them to make the play-in, but to close the season playing these kids like this is a very good thing. Closing the season strong with these kids and then going into the summer with an idea of what you have is going to be very good. Very, very good. So, we'll see how that works out. But, Julius is finished in New York. He really is. I don't think there's any coming back from what has happened between the attitude that he has shown and the way the fans are now really can't stand him. It's irreparable. He's done. He's done in New York. So we've been saying this while some of y'all been not wanting to see that. There's big Julius Randle fans among Knicks Nation. And I understand that every player has their fans, man. But no, it's over. It's over in New York for Julius. And so we move forward. And you know what? Honestly, when you look back at it, the way I'm looking at it, the summer that Obi was drafted, that's what Leon was thinking. Leon was thinking, I'm trading Julius Randle. I'm going to put Obi Toppin in that spot, and we're going to go from there. That was the initial thought. But Julius changed it with the help of Tom Thibodeau and Kenny Payne, right? And he worked his tail up because, as we know now, it was a contract year. And so he played his butt off on both sides of the ball. We know he could do it, which makes this year even worse because now we know he puts forth the effort when he feels like it. And that was the attitude I got before that big year. I didn't like him as a player. I didn't want the Knicks to get him because he seemed to be very lazy on defense. Very lazy. And I didn't realize how low a basketball IQ he had, but I saw that he did not put forth effort on defense when he didn't feel like it. He wasn't sacrificing his body for a charge, put it that way. So I did not want him. But then he came through, and then all of us, including myself, many of us, were thinking, man, he's changed. Maybe this is the new Julius. But no, it wasn't. What we saw 7 of his 8 years is the real Julius, which makes sense. Statistically speaking, if you get 7 years of something happening every time, and then 1 year of something different happening, the different was an aberration. The other 7 is the real, what you got. Okay. And so what we've been seeing this year is what we have seen previous to last year in New Orleans and Los Angeles. And so this is Julius Randle. So now he got his money and we can move him. Okay. Let him, go get someone else. Not only that, another thing is that when Steve Mills and Scott Perry went out to Los Angeles that summer and signed him to the 2-year guaranteed 3rd-year team option deal at $63 million. It was for him to be the man, the centerpiece of the team, offensively, especially. And he embraced that role. The challenge was come to New York and be the man. And he came to do that. He was never that. Okay. But, really and truly, if you look at that summer, the free agent market, he was the last girl at the party. You didn't get the girl that you wanted when you first came to the party, but at the end of the night, it was just you and this other girl. And you approached her, right? There was all of the good free agents that year were gone, and they had to save face, and they got Julius Randle. Okay. And so that's why he came here. Okay. And he took on that challenge, but he's not a number 1 option. So the reason I brought that up is, let's say he gets traded to a Dallas. Let's say he goes to Dallas. I'm just using this as an example. When he walks in, he's the 3rd or the 4th option. First option is Luka, right? Obviously. First option is Luka. Second option is Tim Hardaway, right? Then the 3rd option would be Julius Randle. Maybe, right? But when he walks in and they explain that to him, this is Luka's team. Tim is our second option. You're the third option. If that's the mindset, then he can adjust to that. He's not expecting to be the man. Nobody's looking at him. It's not his team, right? That's a different mindset. Now you'll see him play very well in that role. But in New York, it's too late for that. He came in to be the man. Okay. Then you have the kids rising up around him, and here's RJ now. And the offense runs better through RJ. RJ's a higher IQ basketball player. RJ's a better overall basketball player on both sides of the basketball. And you see in this kid go from a baby when he first came in the league to now he's the man, right? And Julius is not handling that well. Okay. And that's what we really wanted when you're looking at our young people right now. So when we drafted Mitchell Robinson, he was 20. That was 4 years ago. When we drafted RJ Barrett, he was 19. That was 3 years ago. See, when we drafted Obi Toppin, he was older. He's 23. That was last year. And we were expecting them to grow to the point, I was anyway, where we can now play those guys and one of them could pop, as a star. And I still think between RJ and Obi Toppin, we can have two that could pop as a star. I really believe in Obi's, that Obi's an all-star talent. I thought so when he came out of Dayton, and I still think so. So, we have two that could pop, and that's not even including the Quentin Grimeses, the Emmanuel Quickleys, the Cam Reddishes, the Mitchell Robinsons. I thought Mitchell Robinson was a defensive player of the year in the making when he came in the second round, 4 years ago. So I still think so. And so at this point, those players are coming to the points where we expected them to be when we drafted them. And so now we don't really need a guy like a Julius Randle. We need these kids to start taking the mantle and pushing. And I think they'll be pushing for playoff seeding, 8 seed, 7 seed. And then after that, if they're, continue to develop, they'll be pushing second round. Now, when you're doing that, now you can attract a guy that's a go-to player, that's a superstar, that wants to win that chip, and he can look at New York and say, "Oh wow, okay, I think I could be that final piece, that Kawhi Leonard piece in Toronto, right? Somebody like that, I could be that final piece to get them over the top." But you gotta let the process happen. You can't take shortcuts. Okay, Julius represented a shortcut because with Julius's big season, all of a sudden they wanted to bring in all these vets, and Tom wants to win now, and you're taking a shortcut. Okay, and obviously it didn't work. And we should know that in New York. They've been trying to take shortcuts for 20 years. Seriously, they've been trying to do that for 20 years. Ever since Antonio McDyess, they've been trying to do that. Okay, doesn't work. They bring in one guy and he's the savior of the Knicks and blah, 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 blah. It's like McDyess, it's Stephon Marbury, it's a Carmelo Anthony, whoever. You have to build the right way. We've been talking about that long-term sustainable winning, right? So Julius, that successful season he had last year kind of messed us all up. And we were retarding our overall long-term growth. But now with his removal, I think we're going to get what I thought we were going to get when we drafted these guys. Okay, and we drafted well. Mitchell Robinson, second rounder. Deuce McBride, second rounder. Manuel Quickly and Quentin Grimes ended the first round. And then you get that one guy, that RJ, third overall. Obi, 8th overall. And now you develop them and they're coming forward. Okay, so it's going to be, then you actually take Kevin Knox, which was, as we know, not the best pick the Knicks have made. Mr. Mills and Mr. Mr. Perry wasn't the best pick y'all made, but then they turned that pick into Cam Reddish, who is a real deal guy, right? So, they drafted well, they traded well, they got a nice floor group of young talent. And I think Thibodeau, if given that crew and no vets, I think he's good. He's going to whip these kids to they'll play at their highest level. And that's what I was hoping when they hired him. But this whole veteran-laden thing and win now stuff that he's been pulling, I think it's funny. Just yesterday, Tom Thibodeau said something that made me laugh. He said, you know, we're going to win with these kids. They're all young and we got to develop them. Cat ain't developed nothing, right? But okay, if that's the case, I think he's slowly being turned. That's what gives me the impression they're going young, because I think he's now, the narrative changed. And then you take Julius Randle out the equation and you put Obi Toppin in his place, the narrative changes. And so if you take away all of his little crutches and he's forced to play the youth and this is what you got, Tom, win, I think we'll do okay. Okay, I think we'll do okay with that. So we'll see. But tonight's the game. Like I said, I'll be shocked if Julius Randle shows up at Madison Square Garden today. I would. It's not going to be pretty if he does. But we'll see. Anyway, you'll have a good Wednesday. Enjoy the game. Sure.